One Piece chapter 1189 just dropped. You know what that means. Gotta get into it, review it, break it down. Let's see what Oda's cooking up. Chapter 1189 is titled King of the World. Our cover page, we're back to the reader requests, and this is a request of Nami lecturing some monkeys for their mischievous behavior. And these monkeys are the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. But they also aren't just any ordinary monkeys. They have, the physical characteristics of Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. So Luffy is the see no evil, Sanji is the hear no evil, and then Zoro is the speak no evil. So a cool little creative cover page from Oda there. Good to see the reader request back. I know some people question if those are actually, requests or not, or just whatever Oda wants to draw up. But as usual, cover page is cool. What happens in the actual chapter, much more important. We pick up right where we left off. Luffy getting impaled, where everybody wanted to see, what happened here? Was this observation hockey, a clone? Did this actually just happen? Luffy just got one tapped, and sure enough, it is confirmed that Luffy did get hit by this sword, and Imu's not finished yet. Not only did he get stabbed, he's putting him all the way through, and just basically has him embedded into a tree, just like what Loki did to him, at the beginning of their fight. Now Luffy is completely immobilized, pinned by this sword through a tree, and we'll find out later that this sword is also sucking his life force away. So he's going through some shit right now. But we cut away from that, and the first person to actually pick up on Luffy getting stabbed is Usopp. We see the first panel, he actually has a observation hockey, the little spark in the moving lines, the indicator for when observation hockey is being used, and he has that. First one to clock it, turns around, it's kind of like, what? And Nami sees his reaction, like, what's wrong, Usopp? And like I said, Usopp, it's Luffy. Is he going to be all right? So he knows that something's up. The first one of all the crew is probably going to have the strongest observation hockey end of series, so this makes sense. We need to see it early. Nami, of course, being the #1 Luffy supporter, he can't lose, never a doubt about it. It's like, of course he'll be fine. What are you talking about? But Jinbei has to remind her that, the guy he's fighting just one-tapped, or, well, not one-tapped, but, easily handled from what Jinbei saw, he one-tapped him, but he easily handled a massive giant. Of course, he's referring to Loki, who's right there and has something to say later. He's like, Fishman, I'm not out of this fight yet, but Loki, we know you had your time, you had a good run, it's time to settle down, get your wounds treated. So yeah, they kind of just, are running back over again, like, what is the caliber of this dude that Luffy's fighting against? Like, what exactly are his odds of winning? Jumping over to the other half of that group that's with them, the Brook, Frankie, Shuri, Ragnar squad. They're waiting for Shuri to, wake up. She's now fully thawed out of the ice, but she's not conscious yet. She's still having to wake up. And Brook has, been waiting too long for this already, so he's already shaking her, trying to get answers like, Princess Shuri, is that you? What happened? Unfortunately, he's not going to get any answer for now, because once again, Hyrule and these new giant warrior pirates just come flying out of nowhere, just inconveniencing everybody all the time. First, they came dropping from the Sun Realm down to the underworld. Luffy had to save them. Now they come barreling in just on another boat and crash landing, well, once again, and right into my boy Loki. I mean, he's already downed, been donutted 2 times in one day, and then he's got to take just a boat straight to the cranium. So yeah, Hyrule and Gerd are the only ones with them. It's not the whole new giant pirates, but it is Hyrule and Gerd, the leader and the doctor, probably the 2 people they need the most. So they come crash landing in, like I said. Oh, also, I can't forget, Chopper is also there with him. He protects Gerd, hits a massive guard point, which is huge. Literally, that Chopper is able to, turn a giant, big enough to save a giant from, a fatal blow. Just upscale. Chopper getting upscale left and right this entire arc, honestly. But yeah, so Chopper, Gerd, and Hyrule have now all crashed landed into Loki and are on the scene. And of course, everybody's surprised, like, what are you guys doing here? Because, obviously there's a whole nother situation going on over at the not the library, over at the western, port area. Gerd immediately gets to treating Loki's wounds once again. They got her working overtime today. I mean, when's the last time she probably saw this much action in one day as like an Elbaph doctor? Like they don't get. I mean, maybe a lot like back in the day when they were still fighters, but like recently they've kind of toned it back. So she's probably not never treated this many people in one day, honestly. But yeah, she gets to treating his wounds, and then everybody kind of questions Hyrule like why he's here. And he has a little flashback to Yarul pulled up to the scene with Zaza and all the giant parents trying to fight back for their kids, and he basically told Hyrule like this isn't going to change anything. Even if we save the kids, they've already made it clear that they want to take over Elbaph. So we kind of can't win this just by saving the kids. We have to take out the main threat, which would be Emu. So he encourages Hyrule to take Gerd and I guess Chopper, because those are the two doctors. If they need doctors, those are the best two that you can get. And so yeah, they come barreling down, and they're trying to get an idea of what they're up against. I was kind of hoping that we would see Hyrule as well, like do something in this arc, because he is the one who's going to be king of the giants. That's not Loki's goal. He wants to be king of the world, the Blackbeard rocks kind of agenda. So we need to see the other half, the other brother who has more of like the Luffy like dreams to bring his people together and step up for his country. We've seen Loki battle for it for what 5-7 chapters now. So it's time for Hyrule to get his licks in the first encounter with Emu. He had to get pushed out of the way, and Stanson got his leg cut off. So he needs some get back. I think like at least it would be really cool if we saw him and Usopp each get a hit in, because they seem like the underpowered, underrated ones right now that Emu might not expect to be on the same caliber as like a Luffy or a Loki. Moving on, though, like I said, they're still trying to figure out the identity of Emu. That's kind of been the theme of this ever since he pulled up. But now Loki says he thinks he has an idea. And, of course, as he says that, we cut away back to Luffy and Emu. And Emu is pulling the Estarossa from Seven Deadly Sins and just is summoning more blades to keep on impaling Luffy. Because, like I said, a little bit earlier, the sword does have life force stealing like properties, so essentially the more swords Luffy gets impaled with, the quicker his life force is getting drained away. So Emu's kind of just torturing him, like, how much can you take? Like, how many of these weapons can I stick you with before you finally roll over and die? And as he's doing this, he's also just clowning on Luffy. He says, Monkey D. Luffy, such a detestable name, and then brings up his brothers, the one thing that you probably don't want to do if you have to face this man again. He says, thou hast 2 elder siblings who go by different names, a brother slain by the Navy, and the other a prominent member of the Revolutionary Army. As he stabs Luffy again, and I actually want to talk about this sword. So this second sword that Emu summons is, he summons it the same way that he summoned the sword of void, through the big circle on his back. He kind of puts his hand up, and then it emerges through, kind of like he's summoning through like a pocket dimension, or like manifesting it. I'm not sure what it is yet, but this sword in particular looks almost exactly like the one that's sticking through Elbaph, the giant sword that goes diagonally through. I've been looking this entire time. Every time a sword has been introduced since we've seen that sword, I've been comparing it to see if it looks like that sword, and this is the one that 100% matches it the closest. I mean, the hilt is almost indistinguishable. There's the same 3 circles. There's the one big circle in the middle, which you can't see in great detail. I think Oda's trying to keep it kind of obscure too, but it looks like the same symbol that Joy Boy or Nika has on their shield, with the 9 circles, and then that's like in the middle, and then the 2 separate ones that kind of wing out from the hilt of the sword also have 2 other circles. I'll throw out 2 pictures. They have very similar looks to them, so pay attention to that. I guarantee that is the sword that's also in Elbaph. We actually do get a name for this sword when Emu stabs Luffy. I'll try to pronounce it. I'm probably butchering it. Fragarach or Fragarach. I'll put up the name of it. You guys can guess for yourselves. I kind of suck with the pronunciations. But yes, there is a name of this sword. We find out confirmed later. We then cut away to see what Loki was talking about. We get another flashback, kind of an extended flashback of when Loki killed Harold and, Shanks and Gabon and Yarul were all there talking about it. Where do we go from here? And we see, obviously, Loki wanted to go get revenge on the world government for his dad, all the soldiers that have died. But Shanks basically tells him, like, you need to not focus on that and prepare for war right here on Elbaph, because they're not stopping. They're going to keep on coming back until they take this place over. So your best course of action would just to prepare for a full-on war. And, Loki's kind of like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm going to go take the fight to them. I'm not just letting them, get away with this and, sitting on my hands. And that's when Shanks tells him, like, the one that tried to take Harold or killed Harold is the king of the world. Like, the one man, rules this all. Which, of course, kind of takes Yarul and Gabon back. I mean, probably not Gabon, because he knew the secret of the One Piece at this point. He probably saw the entire story of the Void Century, kind of laid out for him. So I feel like this isn't news to him. But definitely Yarul and Loki are kind of like, there's no one person that rules the entire world government. Like, that would go against the entire purpose of it, which was, all the countries get a decision, kind of like, our own world. But, Shanks being the one that was there in the Holy Land, I feel like they should know that he would have the most knowledge. But he's like, you don't have to believe me if you don't want to. But I'll just tell you that there is one guy who's ruling this whole thing. And even if you did get to him, he's probably whooping your ass. There's only one other guy who's done it. And then we get a little, side by side with Loki and Zebek. So this is pushing probably Loki's, idolizing Rocks even more with Shanks saying this. But of course, Loki being Loki, he's not going to be the one to take the warning and just back down. So he just kind of walks out. And we know, obviously, that he goes and ravages anyway. And, any world government ship that he can get his hands on, he takes out. But, this just really gives us more clarity of what we kind of already thought. But Shanks was just looking out for Loki. It wasn't like a personal vendetta or anything like Loki thinks. Why he has such hate for him. Like, at the end of the day, Shanks was buddies with Harold as well. So it makes sense. He would want to look out for his son. Make sure that he stays alive for Harold's sake. So, Shanks, just continuing to be the good guy that he is. Hiruden, now that Loki has given him the full context of the situation and what's going on, of course, has no objections. And, this is who killed our father. I know what I got to do now. I'm taking him down. So exactly what I wanted to see. And I actually didn't notice until this panel when I was reading that after that attack from Emu, Hiruden, was obviously really badly fucked up, but he actually has one of his eyes like completely covered by bandages. So I'm kind of interested to see if that's going to be like a scar or if he's going to have some Zoro shit going on. Like, where does that lead? But we then have another cutaway back to the Jinbei, Brook, Nami group. And, Ragnar was kind of squeaking at him earlier. Now that we have the boy Chopper here, we can actually get some insight. He can use his translation skills to, tell him what's going on. And, Ragnar's like, hey, I froze that person for a reason. Like, it could be dangerous. And Brook is like, hey, she's not dangerous, all right? She was being controlled. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. This girl's like a daughter to me. And Brook, Ragnar is trying to like make the connection like between Brook and Shuri, like looking at the two of them. He's like, how the fuck would they be related? It's kind of funny. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Robin pops up, who I had completely forgot about, and I actually had to go look at where Robin went these last couple chapters. Yeah, after, Chopper is useful and translates for Ragnar, Robin immediately pops up and says, sounds like there's a lot of interesting things going on here. Chopper, I want you to come to the library right away. What? Well, and then Saul's just across the way at the Owl Library, just like, oh, howdy, how's it going? Brother, we're fighting for the country right now. What could possibly be so important in that library right now? It should have been, oh, we found the books? Okay, they're safe? All right, Saul, let's go save your country. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Obviously, the top thing would be, like, she wants Chopper to come talk to Biblo. But what the fuck is Biblo gonna do? Hey, Biblo, we'll play 20 questions. Why did you save the books? Like, I don't know. This seems like such small stakes compared to hey, your captain is actively on a fucking kebab right now and is getting tortured. Somebody go save him. Zoro and Sanji are fighting two demons. Sanji has his hands full, by the way. Sanji can't do everything at once. He's trying to take out Killingham, save the kids at the same time. Meanwhile, they're over here in the fucking library playing goddamn Akinator. Like, what is going on? Had to get that quick little rant out of the way because that genuinely pissed me off when I was reading earlier. Like, what the fuck are we doing? There's so much bigger things going on. And we jump to one of those bigger things, which is back to Luffy getting tortured on a tree. And Emu is just out here summoning different weapons. He's just like, and the next one up is, oh, shit. This legendary axe, which, once again, I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of. I'll just put it up, and you guys can, do with that what you will. I'm not going to even make an attempt on that one. But, big giant axe looks like it was probably used by an Elbaphian, back in the day. And Luffy just can't even respond at this point. He's just probably in Zoro levels amount of pain and Thriller Bark. We're making a bunch of little jump cuts in this chapter to a bunch of whole different areas. So now we're at the Western Village Port where, Zoro and Summers were, meeting up, getting ready to square off. And they are going band for band. Zoro is, strongest mode, King of Hell. And Summers has the Omen. And he has a new weapon called Graham. It's another sword. And like I said, they're matching each other's blows. Conquers, hockey, flowing everywhere after each slash. And we get a little dialogue, a little exposition of 800 years ago, the 19 kings who forged our world made a vow of equality. They placed their swords all around the empty throne to make that oath, which, we kind of already knew. Had this information, but what comes next is, some crazy confirmation. And Summer starts naming all the swords basically that we've seen to this point. Nemesis, Stigma, it's called Tohu, Bohu, Muramasa. There's a whole bunch of different names that he's listing off, and we find out that the 19 world weapons are the ones that we've been seeing. So all these swords, the ones that Emu's been summoning that now Summers has, is, they're all swords from the original 20 kings of the country. That's just wild to me. This is crazy to think that Emu probably has the blueprints for all these swords just up in his head, because I feel like this pushes out the idea that, the Omen is a little, like, pocket dimension maybe that stores them. I think that would be a cool idea that, like, he took all the swords of, the true swords of the original 20 and has them all stored. But I do also think that, them being planted around the throne room, those could still be the real ones. So Emu is just summoning, copies or, maybe like stronger versions with, the Omen or the Maki, whatever, the official translation ends up being for Emu's, power. But I think he could be using that, maybe like imbuing them into those swords and kind of like just making them stronger, like the demonic version of these swords, like the Domi reversied versions of these swords. We also get to see that not only does Summers have a new weapon, but Killingham also got one of these new weapons. It's called Longinus, or who knows? Once again, I'll put it up on the screen. That's, what my brain immediately goes to, pronunciation-wise. But, both of them now have swords of the, original 20. Like I said, Summers has Graham, which ends up being the weapon of Hal Shepherd. So, his family name. And then Killingham gets the, Longinus, the weapon of House Remo Shifu. And it's kind of more of like a sword, kind of spear-looking thing. It's similar to like, the trident weapon he had before, but it's obviously only 1 point. So now both of them just got buffed even more. On our final page of the chapter, we got Emu getting ready to swing that giant axe at Luffy as he says, "Thou shouldst be honored to die by the arms that constructed this world." Luffy still in crazy pain, can't even say anything. Right as he's about to make contact, we see motion blur and quick little flash. And who comes in to save Luffy other than Scopper the Mountain Eater, Gabon, the legendary entrance, some Shanks pulling up at Marineford level. Emu is pissed, whereas below him you see Scopper is smiling. He's ready to make one last stand for the future Pirate King. I'm not mad at it. Like, I'm honestly here for it. It's not as crazy as, a dragon pulling up or a Shanks pulling up, but that would have been that would have made this arc absolutely fucking broken. Like, arguably one of the best arcs in manga, I feel like, if you had a dragon or a Shanks pull up. So, Scopper is the reasonable one. He's the next closest, strongest person in the vicinity, and we did similar to when Luffy was getting his ass kicked in Sabaody. We had the right hand of the Pirate King step in, Rayleigh. So now when Luffy's getting his ass kicked here, we get the left hand of the king stepping in to protect Luffy once more. I really hope he doesn't die. I hope, he's able to delay long enough for something else to happen. But either way, this is just cold ass entrance from the Mountain Eater. This is definitely more of the chapter I expected after the last one, where we got just 80-90% Emu versus Luffy. Was just, kind of jumping around, seeing the other events on Elbaph while, maybe getting a little bit more mixed in, which is basically what we got. We got Luffy getting impaled one more time, and then probably before he's about to get cut in half, Darth Maul style, you see Scopper step in, which is, another big cliffhanger to leave us on when we are going on another break week. I'll just say it now. We are on another 2-week break after this one. But yeah, no, I think just honestly the most full feeling chapter. Like, we got something from, I think, literally every group on besides, like, we got in the flashback the Zaza group, but I mean, other than that, we got fucking Hiruden and Gerd. We got Chopper back in the mix. We got Robin back. We got Zoro and Sanji. We got the whole other Straw Hat group with Loki, Ragnar. Like, we got Shanks in this chapter. Like, we got quite literally as much as we could get before a break week. So I'm not mad at it. The way I do see this going is, a Scopper, kind of stall, not win the fight type thing, while we wait for some of these lower level players to kind of get involved, the Hirudens and the Usopps, the people who have already been injured. Obviously, Gabon has too, but he's had the most recovery time, arguably. I mean, easily. He hasn't been injured since earlier in the day when Gunko before she got taken over. So he's had the most rest time. So let Hiruden, Brook, Usopp, everybody kind of let Chopper go do whatever the fuck he's gonna go do in the library, and then once that's all handled, we'll all reconvene and we can make a final stand with some more people that need the limelight more. I'm just gonna circle back to it one more time because I feel like this is really important, that in the middle of all this shit going down, they need to go talk to Biblo. So Biblo, for this to be redeemable, he needs to have an insane piece of information for us that's like turning the tide in this fight. Like, maybe he tells Chopper about the forest god or something. Like, I'm telling, it needs to be something that substantial to warrant leaving your captain and like your 3 strongest guys to fend for themselves when they're getting their ass kicked or getting pushed to high diff. Like, there has to be a good reason. I'll also be looking out for that giant sword in Elbaph being confirmed as the same sword that Emu just used, because like I said, when you see them compared side by side, it is almost impossible to not think that they're the same sword, or at least boost that theory up a little bit. But other than that, in general, just getting confirmation that Emu can summon all of these swords or all these weapons from the original 20 is absurd. Like, that's just insane power from him to be able to not only summon them but give them to whoever. Like, this is Emu nerfed also. This isn't even the strongest he can be. Arguably, when he's in the Holy Land, Marie Joie is when he's going to be at his most powerful. So if we're seeing the nerfed version right now on a time limit, like, imagine Emu with no limitations. I also do really think that we've only seen a small scope of what Emu can do, just like how we've only seen a small scope of what Luffy can do in Gear 5. The final fight between them, when we're actually in the final war, it's gonna be, we're gonna be seeing some of the craziest shit, like Luffy turning into a dragon, maybe potentially summoning his own weapon. Like, this could get insane really quickly, depending on, how far Oda wants to go with it. But with that, like I said, we are on break next week, so, we'll have to marinate on this a little more and keep on speculating. But make sure you guys let me know what you thought of this chapter down below, what you think of my thoughts on the chapter, potential theories that we could end up seeing. And yeah, until the next one, deuces.